the sweet spot? This very simple Venn diagram kind of demonstrates what the sweet spot is. It is the intersection between your capabilities and your client's needs, and that is the area where you are able to deliver value. So how do we get to a situation where we understand a sweet spot, we can test it, we can add metrics to it? So there's a couple of tools that we can use. This is a very basic example of a value chain. And what you have across the top is various different functions or lines of business within an organization. So for the sake of our example here, I've listed out the board, the sales team, finance team, marketing team, and the delivery team. And what you're looking to try and capture within your value chain is the targets, KPIs, challenges, or strategic goals that each of those functions is trying to achieve. So always start with the board, because ultimately everybody else's metrics flows from the metrics that sit at the top of the organization. They'll all have KPIs. They may have, if you're not familiar, KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. They might have OKRs as well. OKRs are objective key result. So it's kind of like a grander way of saying KPIs. They might even have BHAGs, which is another acronym that's very famous, which is big, hairy, audacious goals. So those are massive targets, massive objectives they're trying to achieve, but they're the North Star, they're the guiding principle that drives everything else that they do within a business. So what are the core KPIs that each division has? And if you're in finance, it might be about positive cash flow, it might be about debtor days. If you're in marketing, it might be about number of qualified leads. If you're in delivery, it might be about how quickly you turn around orders, how quickly you get to, from a sale to cash or lead to cash. So what are the key KPIs? Capturing as many of those as possible. And KPIs are typically broadly the same across similar industries. So they'll have the same kind of metrics that they'll all work towards. Slightly more innovative companies might have their own metrics. Slightly more aggressive companies might have higher metrics, but it's the same KPI, but it's fundamentally a bigger number or a faster number. But typically, it's very unusual to go from one organization to another in a similar kind of sector or vertical and find that have vastly different key performance indicators. They might have different names for them, but broadly speaking, they'll be the same. Known issues. So as well as capturing KPIs, you want to capture known issues, and these can kind of swing both ways, right? These can either be known issues that the business has, that you, through your research, have identified, through talking to people close to an account, have identified, or known issues of the industry, known challenges that the industry has. So a good example, thinking about hospitality, for example, is since Brexit, since the cost of living crisis, it's incredibly difficult to get good staff to work at a reasonable price in restaurants, bars and cafes, and therefore staff turnover, which was traditionally high in kind of hospitality anyway, is even higher, and hanging on to good people is even more important, but there isn't necessarily the money to pay for it. So what are the known issues that the industry is suffering with, or what are the known issues that particular business is suffering with? Now, if you can get to the particular business issues they're suffering with, obviously that's more powerful, but a really good place to start is what are the known issues across the industry? Unknown issues. So this is a great example, or a great opportunity rather, for you to highlight your knowledge or your organization's knowledge within a particular sector, geography, vertical, whatever it might be, where because you deal with a much larger number of clients, you see issues that other businesses don't necessarily see, or they may see those issues in their organization, but they see it too late, or they don't see it enough, they don't necessarily recognize that there's a problem like coming down the road. And this is where you as an organization can provide valuable insight as to some of the challenges that businesses face. And then there are those strategic goals that we talked about kind of right up front with the BHAGs and the OKRs. So what are the long-term goals of a board? They could be anything from 1 year to 3 year to 5 year time horizons. Within the functions or lines of business of an organization, they are likely to be more like 12-month to 18-month kind of ambitions or targets. And they might involve things like restructuring. They might involve things like finance moving to a new sort of financial planning system. So particularly if an organization is growing, going from something like, I don't know, Intuit, QuickBooks to something like Sage, for example. Marketing could be some kind of strategic goal to move away from kind of brand work towards something that's more like influencer marketing that's particularly popular at the moment, and so on and so forth. And delivery might be something like Six Sigma or lean production. But either way, each line of business will have larger, broader goals that they're trying to achieve, which roll up to the key goals, KPIs, and areas of improvement that the board has identified. So it's kind of like a pyramid. So doing this exercise, and this doesn't need to be done, in a really immaculate manner. It depends how kind of OCD you are. It can be done on the back of a piece of paper. It can be done in a spreadsheet. There's a number of different ways of building this. You'll see an option to download tools, and these tools, this and all the tools we cover in the course, will be in that download. So that's about understanding client needs. The next is about your capability. So we talked about the capability matrix earlier, and that it is more than just your product or service. So your business has plenty of areas for adding value beyond the product and service. Now, obviously, that's where you start. So what was the product or service designed to address? What pain or problem was it designed to solve for? And how does it go about doing that? Clearly, that's where you start. But your organization will have other attributes. So what's its brand? What's its scale? And scale, by the way, there's as much value in it being large as there is in it being small. Small, nimble, agile business, tick for some organizations. A large organization in many different nations, many different countries, can take different currencies, so on and so forth. For a different business, tick. The way the organization works, so its processes, its ability to adopt new ways of working quickly, or having really robust, tested methods, again, they all add value. The individuals within your business, so you might have, or you certainly will have, thought leaders. They might be might be a CTO if you're in the tech space, might be somebody in human resources or marketing. I worked for O2 for a very long time, and organizations were always really keen to talk to our marketing and advertising department because they were genuinely cutting edge. You'll have people like that. You'll have thought leaders within the business. You might have real subject matter expertise and top talent in this particular domain that you can bring in front of the customer to create value, to gain engagement and build credibility for your organization as well. And then beyond that, your alliances, the marketplace that you sit in, the agreements that you have in place. A great example of that is if you are an organization and you're providing services to a big business like a BP or an IBM or somebody like that, and you have terms of service in place, there'll be a whole lot of organizations that you'll compete with that don't have those in place. And while they might do a good job in terms of the sale, if there isn't those contracts, that paperwork there to execute a contract against, that puts you in a fantastic situation. So you really need to look much broader than just the product and service when you're thinking about your capabilities, because these are all areas that you can differentiate against. And then bringing them all together for that value hypothesis, it's layering the capabilities that you have against the challenges, the goals, the problems and issues of the different departments within your ideal customer, and identifying 2, 3, 4 areas where actually there's a lot of value in terms of helping that business out, in terms of being able to address a specific need. But then being able to layer on top, actually, do you know what? Like I talked about a second ago, if we had an organization that was desperately trying to improve its marketing and its effectiveness, bringing out our head of marketing or bringing out one of our marketing directors was a fantastic way to gain credibility get that relationship going. If you're a tech business, great example at the moment might be AI. If you've got a thought leader in the AI space, actually having that individual engage with key people within your target client, that can add tremendous value as well. So fundamentally, and I will just whiz back, we are looking to find those areas where your capabilities are able to address a specific need that your client has. That's where the value is created. That's the sweet spot. And you want to be able to build as many of those through your research and through understanding your business and your market dynamics as possible. Because the more of those you have, the more likely you are to be successful in your sale.